Let me start by talking about what it means to students, really on the academic side. So I'd actually go to this one first, behind my shoulder there, that says improving academics. One of the key topics we need to do within Detroit is show academic improvement. One of the challenges we have in Detroit is we have a lot of low-performing schools, and it's showing up in terms of student results. If you want to look at specific measures, actually the infograph over my other shoulder shows some of those results in the middle there. It talks about Detroit high school students not being prepared as well as they should be in many respects. If you compare the performance of both DPS and charter schools, it's not up to the level of the rest of the state of Michigan, and one of our goals is to see state performance improve. So there's areas for improvements for both public schools in terms of DPS, and charter schools and EEA schools. I'd also like to highlight, though, is we have some very good schools in Detroit. So I wouldn't want to leave out the fact that we do have some major success stories in Detroit that we should be proud of. In terms of DPS, I just mentioned some excellent schools such as Renaissance High, the Bates Academy. We have some very good charters in terms of their performance, some of which are very well known, such as University Prep and Detroit Merit. On EEAA, we have had successes of schools that were on the priority list that have left that list. The Central Collegiate Academy and Brenda Scott. So in each case, we do have some good performing to excellent schools. And one of the questions is, how do we get that level of performance across the board within the city of Detroit? One of the first steps we're recommending is the creation of the Detroit Education Commission with a Chief Education Officer. So the role of this Detroit Education Commission is to actually do two or three things. One is to actually create more transparency in terms of performance of schools, in terms of reporting on performance levels, metrics on a regular basis. The Detroit Education Commission also would be active in the process in terms of creating a voluntary enrollment system that schools could decide to be part of, that would actually create a better clearinghouse system for helping parents find schools that are appropriate for their children and getting them enrolled in those schools. It also would be responsible for holding schools accountable. So if a school was not performing up to expected levels in terms of academic growth and performance in some fashion, it could essentially close those schools or reorganize those schools in some fashion to increase performance. It would also do this in partnership with the State Reform Office. So the State Reform Office would maintain its role and responsibilities with respect to education in Detroit and throughout the state of Michigan. I believe these are important actions to really create an environment where we have better performing schools on a consistent basis to help address these topics. So the first topic being academics. The next one I would go to is the finances, because one of the other challenges we find in Detroit is Detroit Public Schools has a tremendous amount of debt. That's making it difficult for them to be successful. Actually, much of their pupil allowance in some cases is going to debt payments as opposed to going to the classroom. That's something we'd like to see better results in the classroom and more resources to go with that. So we're proposing a reorganization of Detroit Public Schools. I would outline that in terms of a couple more infographics to make it simple for you in some fashion. The first one I would say is, if you look over here, is the planned reorganization. Where basically we have the current system with Detroit Public Schools. It gets resources from both the school aid fund and millage, and it performs all those functions. What we're proposing to do is create an old co, new co model, where basically a new school district would be created. The old school district would keep the local revenue source, the millage, and keep the debt. In terms of a new school district would be created, the Detroit Community School District. And it would be a successor school district, so it would take the teachers, contracts, healthcare, operations, computers, and students. So essentially, all the activities other than the debt would move to the new school district. So the new school district would be the operating organization. One question I'm sure you're going to ask is, how much debt are we talking about? Essentially, the expected operating debt for the Detroit Public Schools as of next June is approximately $515 million. To also make sure the new school district's successful though, we'd make arrangements that there'll be additional needs that would be part of the old debt of $100 million for additional investments and working capital for the new school district. And then approximately $100 million would be the expected accumulated operating losses after June 30. And that assumes both some level of declining enrollment still and also the need to